I'm Max Scoville, and on today's fix, Kratos is joining the Avengers. Kind of. Valve enters the handheld race, and there's some speculation about what that OLED Switch could mean for the larger console market. Finally, we have actual news! We've known for a while that Black Panther would be the next character to join the ranks of Marvel's Avengers, the video game, but the big question was who would be voicing the beloved King of Wakanda? Well, now we have an answer. Christopher Judge, the voice of Kratos in the God of War series, will be lending his talents to King T'Challa in the upcoming War for Wakanda expansion. Speaking to Entertainment Weekly, Judge explained that he initially turned down the role flat out for fear of having his performance compared to the late Chadwick Boseman, whose incredible portrayal of Black Panther in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is definitely a hard act to follow. However, Judge eventually reconsidered, but only after his mother and children threatened to disown him if he didn't take the role of Black Panther, which honestly is a pretty cool role. Judge emphasized that he didn't even attempt to match the voice that Boseman gave T'Challa, but rather put his all into a performance that stands on its own. However, he did work with the same dialect coach from the films to nail down a Wakandan accent. War for Wakanda's writers are taking a similar approach, bringing the Black Panther mythos into the game in a way that sets it apart from the MCU version, though noting that it does take some cues from the recent rise of the Black Panther comic run. Allegedly, the War for Wakanda expansion runs more than 25 hours, which sounds pretty substantial, but it looks like that's also counting the time you'd spend playing through the base game's campaign as Black Panther. IGN reached out to Square Enix, but is still waiting for clarification on that part. Either way, War for Wakanda drops sometime next month. Still no word on when that Spider-Man DLC will be swinging into the game, or who's coming after that, but data leaks and rumors are suggesting She-Hulk, Winter Soldier, Captain Marvel, and War Machine might be up next. A new challenger approaches in the handheld gaming space, and you might already own a massive library of games for it, most of which you got on sale and still haven't played. This morning, Valve unveiled the Steam Deck, which is a brand new handheld gaming PC. It has a similar form factor to the Nintendo Switch, but the guts are considerably more powerful. Behind the 7-inch 60Hz LCD screen with a 1280 by 800 resolution, there is a custom AMD APU featuring a 4-core, 8-thread CPU paired with 8 RDNA 2 compute units for the GPU and 16 gigabytes of LP DDR5 RAM. In other words, it's pretty beefy. The official site claims it'll be able to run the latest AAA games and run them really well. Their words, not mine. IGN's Tom Marks went hands-on with the Steam Deck and was able to play Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order with the graphics on the high setting with little to no issue. In addition to the standard controls of a D-pad, 2 thumbsticks, 7 face buttons, and 4 shoulder buttons, the Steam Deck also has 2 trackpads and 4 additional buttons on the back plate, and third-party controllers, including mouse and keyboard, can also be connected. The UI is streamlined, much like a console's, but it runs on the Linux-based Steam OS operating system and will allow users to back out to the desktop and launch third-party games and apps. So, essentially, it's still a PC. Meanwhile, you can hook it to an external display using the dock, which Valve is selling separately, or you can just use a third-party cable, which you might already have one of laying around. The Steam Deck is slated for release this December, and the real shocker here is the price. The cheapest model is a modest $399 US. The catch of that version is that it only has 64 gigs of onboard storage, though that can be expanded with a micro SD card. There are also 256 and 512 gig models, which will have faster load times thanks to NVMe solid-state drives, and those will cost $529 and $649 respectively. And while it's definitely pricey for a handheld or console, that is dirt cheap for a gaming PC that can run high-end games. Anyway, the highest end model of the Steam Deck also features anti-glare etched glass, and all of the models come with a carrying case, which is nice. Of course, the most cutting edge thing that Valve announced is plans for a pre-order system for the Steam Deck that hopes to avoid being a complete and utter garbage fire, unlike some other recent gaming hardware launches, not naming names or anything. Now, all that might seem less appealing after everything I just told you about, but the newest Nintendo Switch model with the OLED screen is now available for pre-order, and as of shooting this video, it is not totally impossible to snag one, though that of course may change by the time you see this. If you're really trying to get your hands on one, keep your eyes on the IGN Deals Twitter account, and if you're across the pond, IGN Deals UK is also a thing. Pre-orders going up isn't really a news story, so here's a little tidbit to run out the clock that might make you reconsider buying one. A Bloomberg report suggests that one reason for the new OLED Switch is for Nintendo to test the waters on how much people will pay for a console. It's no secret that this model isn't a huge improvement over the original Switch hardware, but the new version allegedly costs only $10 more to manufacture. The $349 price tag might scandalize you in light of that news, but it's worth pointing out that Nintendo always sells its hardware at a profit, which is at odds with the usual strategy of selling consoles at a loss and then recouping costs through software sales. Now, there's some rumbling that other hardware companies are keeping a close eye on how this whole OLED gamble pans out. We often see consoles get midlife makeovers with new designs that have the same basic specs but a lower MSRP, like the Xbox One S or old PS3 Slim, and last gen the PS4 Pro and Xbox One X charge more mid-cycle for upgraded hardware that wasn't quite a generational leap. Now, if the OLED Switch is a runaway hit, that might mean that we'll see slightly tweaked versions of the PS5 and Series X that are the same under the hood but selling for a higher price, like that time on The Simpsons that they put out a brand new Malibu Stacy that had a new hat, and all the little girls bought it even though it just had a new hat.
Don't be fooled. She's just a regular Malibu Stacy with a stupid cheap hat. She still embodies all the awful stereotypes she did before.
But she's got a new hat.
But considering how hard it is to track down the current models of the Series X and PS5, it's kind of safe to assume that Sony and Microsoft are well aware of how high demand is. Of course, take all this with a grain of salt, it's all just speculation from industry experts, loosely paraphrased by a man with pointy hair. And that is your fix for July 15th. What Avenger do you want as DLC? Are you pre-ordering either of these handhelds? Should Sony make a PlayStation Vita 2? How are you? And what have you got going on this weekend? Can I tag along? Sound off in the comments to all those questions, and as always, make sure you are following IGN on your favorite platform of choice, and if you're still trying to snag a new console, go check out that IGN Deals Twitter. I'll see you next time.
So it is a full gaming PC, it's not just this handheld gaming console or anything like that. It is much wider than that for those who want to go wider than that. At launch, there will be 3 models of the